Hey guys, welcome to Bipolar Boxing. Saturday night we got Vergil Ortiz versus Serhii Bohachuck. Fighting at 154, Vergil Ortiz is at now. He's been at 154 for I believe, his last two fights. He only fought a total of about a round and a half in those two fights, but they were both at 154. And he did miss weight for both of those fights, I believe. He definitely weighed in over 155 for both of those fights. But he made weight today. He came in just under 154. So him and Bohachuck are both on weight. They're ready to fight for. I think Bohachuck has the WBC interim title, and I think they're still calling it the interim title. I don't know what the hell the Charlo brothers are doing, but just make that the title. This fight is for the WBC title, in my opinion. And Bohachuck beat Brian Mendoza in his last fight. Mendoza was coming off the big knockout win over Fundora, where he was losing virtually every round, and then knocked him out. And Bohachuck just stepped in, used his Ukrainian, Olympic style boxing, and boxed him to death. But Bohachuck also does have power. It's not one punch power, but he does knock guys out. I mean, the guy's 24-1 with 23 knockouts, I believe. Mendoza was the only guy he couldn't get out of there, but I mean, he beat the shit out of Mendoza, and a lot of other guys would have been stopped in that fight. And Bohachuck's a good fighter. He really hasn't fought in that good a competition. He lost to Brandon Adams, I think his name was the guy. I think Brandon Adams won the Contender show, the last one that they had with Shane Mosley Jr. on there, and I think he beat Mosley Jr. in the finals. And he lost to Charlo. He's a decent fighter, but like not a power puncher. And he knocked out Bohachuck, and Bohachuck was winning pretty much every round in that fight until the seventh or eighth round. Adams caught him and knocked him out. But Bohachuck is a good boxer. If he chooses to box this fight, which I think that's his best opportunity, is to just try to box and win rounds against Vergil Ortiz. Because even though these guys both got a lot of knockouts on the resume, make no doubt about it, Vergil Ortiz is the bigger puncher here. And Bohachuck probably is the better boxer. We don't get to see a lot of Vergil Ortiz just pure boxing in his fights because he knocks guys out and he knocks them out early. I mean, his last two fights, he got the guys out of there in the first round. The one to Frederick Lawson there was a terrible stoppage by Tony Weeks. I think that stoppage had a lot to do with Lawson. He failed some medical tests before that fight. I remember he had like a blood clot in his brain or something like that, and somebody didn't want him to fight, but they got it cleared. They stopped the fight prematurely in the first round, but I mean, we knew what was going to happen in that fight. He was going to knock him out eventually. But Ortiz, he just looks unstoppable at times. And I mean, until Ortiz shows me otherwise, I just got to go with Ortiz here. I got to think he's just going to knock Bohachuck out too. Bohachuck is probably the best fighter he's ever faced. But Ortiz has been through, a lot of tough fighters. He had that string back in, I think it was 2022. I think all in the same year he fought Maurice Hooker, Kavalauskas, and Michael McKinson. Like, those are three solid fighters, probably better than anybody on Bohachuck's resume, including Brian Mendoza. And so he's proven himself. He's got knockouts in every single one of his fights. Until the guy shows me otherwise, I gotta think he's just gonna keep knocking people out. I think he's different than a guy like Gary Antoine Russell got. He lost recently. He lost, and he was coming in with 17-0, 17 knockouts, and he got exposed. He got outboxed his last fight. I don't see that happening to Vergil Ortiz. I think even if Bohachuck wins a few rounds, he's going to have to take a lot of punishment to win those rounds, and I don't see him getting to 7 rounds before he gets knocked out. I just see Vergil Ortiz just kind of hammering him to the body. Vergil Ortiz, a really good body puncher, and I see Ortiz's power just being too much for Bohachuck. The only thing that scares me, and the reason why I'm not going to fire a lot of money on Ortiz, because I got Ortiz at minus 250, which I think are great odds for this fight. I think Ortiz should be at least a 5-1 favorite in this fight. And I mean, I just got to think he's going to go knock Bohachuck out. And regardless of how many rounds Bohachuck wins in there, I just think eventually he's getting knocked out. And I think it's going to be probably 7 or 8 rounds. I don't think it goes past, I'll put the over under at like maybe 10 rounds or something like that. I don't think it goes 10 rounds. And Vergil Ortiz is going to knock him out. It might even be with a body shot. Vergil Ortiz, really good body puncher. He trains with Robert Garcia. The one thing that scares me, and the reason I wouldn't put too much money on this fight, is because they trained a lot with each other. When I didn't realize Vergil Ortiz until this week, I didn't know he trained with Manny Robles. Manny Robles is one of the best trainers in boxing. I always thought he was under Robert Garcia for some reason. And because that kind of Robert Garcia, up until last week, I would have said the guy doesn't even know how to spell defense. All of his fighters, maybe it's just because a lot of them are Mexican, but they don't have a lot of defensive skills. They just go in there and try to knock you out. Vergil Ortiz does the same thing. But after we saw what Rayo just did to Pitbull Cruz, Robert Garcia is one of the best trainers in boxing. He's one of the top 2 or 3 best trainers in all of boxing. And I think if Vergil Ortiz has a huge year, like I think he'll get one more fight at the end of this year, probably a big fight like a Tim Tszyu or something like that. If he can win this fight and then beat like a Tim Tszyu or something like that, I think Robert Garcia should win Trainer of the Year. Might be a hot take, but what that guy just did with Rayo fought an absolutely perfect fight against Pitbull Cruz, and Pitbull Cruz is not an easy guy to fight like that. He fought perfectly. The way the guy was, his footwork was amazing, and I'm just like, man, I never knew a Robert Garcia trained fighter could do this. So it shows that they do work on other things in the gym. So a guy like Vergil Ortiz, you may not see that he's got any pure boxing skill, and you think, man, if he doesn't knock him out, he could just lose too many rounds to Bohachuck. But I think they're working on a lot of things at the Robert Garcia gym, and he will make adjustments if that turns out to be an issue. He can make adjustments to just sit there and say, hey, man, we can't knock this guy out. Let's just win these rounds. And I think he'd do that against Bohachuck, but I don't like the fact that these guys have trained a lot together, because that just, to me, it favors the underdog because the element of surprise is gone. He's felt Ortiz's power in sparring. I think it was years ago that they sparred, but they were both under Manny Robles, and I'm pretty sure Bohachuck is still with Robles, so he's a good trainer. But I always think that favors the underdog just because, like I said, the element of surprise isn't there. He's felt the power, and, but then again, Vergil Ortiz can take everything he learned and just go tell Robert Garcia what he learned. Meanwhile, Robles has no idea what Vergil Ortiz is doing under Robert Garcia. So think of that, what it is. But, yeah, just give me Vergil Ortiz here. Round 7 KO, I'm going to say. And I think, my last video I said Venado might knock out Angelo Leo with a body shot. I think this one comes with a body shot as well. I think Bohachuck, he's going to take too many punches in there. He's got a good Ukrainian style, but usually they're very in tight. Their body's going to be wide open, and I think Ortiz catches him eventually, even if he's down on the cards. Vergil Ortiz knockout. Let me know who you guys think's going to win this fight. Let me know what you think Ortiz does after this if he wins. If you guys want to see him in there against, Tim Tszyu seems to be the fight out there. It seems to be a fight that Turki Al-Ashi wants to make. This is another thing in this fight, guys. Like, Turki Al-Ashi likes this guy. So Vergil Ortiz has big paydays on the way. And I don't think he's going to throw it away here. He's going to come in, give everything he can in this fight. And that's all I'm asking for, because if he does this, I don't see him losing to a guy like Bohachuck. Bohachuck's a solid opponent. But, I mean, this is just another stepping stone on Vergil Ortiz's way to maybe becoming a superstar, maybe getting a Terrence Crawford fight. After what happened with last week's fight, I would rather, as a fan, see Crawford versus Vergil Ortiz than I would Crawford-Canelo. And I love Canelo and Crawford, but, man, sign me up for Vergil Ortiz, Terrence Crawford sometime next year. But you guys enjoy these fights and have a good night.